Well, now that's the first time in your life you ever kept a secret. Blab.
Well, now, son,
When you think of classic westerns, one title always stands out not just for its storytelling, but for the legends involved. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Released in 1962 and directed by none other than John Ford, the film stars Hollywood icons James Stewart, John Wayne, and Lee Marvin. But while the story is compelling on the surface, a tale of myth versus reality, honor versus pragmatism, what really makes this film legendary is the strange, surprising, and sometimes even chaotic stuff that happened behind the scenes. So saddle up, because we're about to explore 10 weird facts that will change how you see this iconic film forever. 1. It was filmed in black and white. In the age of color, by the early 1960s, black and white was on its way out. Color was dominating cinema, with epic Technicolor productions like Ben-Hur and Lawrence of Arabia dazzling audiences. But The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance? Shot entirely in black and white. The reasons are debated. Some say it was purely budget, color cost more, and Paramount was trying to keep the film within limits. But director John Ford reportedly preferred black and white for its gritty realism, especially for this story about the fading Wild West and the messy gray area between law and violence. Whether it was art or thrift, it certainly made the film look more stark and serious, and oddly timeless. 2. John Ford didn't want Wayne in the movie, seriously. Even though John Ford and John Wayne had worked together for decades and made westerns a Hollywood staple, Ford wasn't thrilled to have Wayne in this one. According to several sources, Ford originally envisioned Henry Fonda for the role of Tom Doniphan, a more brooding, tragic character than Wayne's typical tough guy persona. But the studio pushed for Wayne because of his star power. Ford agreed, but tensions on set were high. He reportedly treated Wayne coldly during filming, favoring James Stewart instead. Some crew members said Ford went out of his way to humiliate Wayne at times, which adds a whole new layer of tension to the dynamic we see on screen. 3. James Stewart was 53, playing a law student. Let's be honest. When James Stewart's character Ransom Stoddard appears in the film's flashbacks as a young, idealistic lawyer, it takes a minute to adjust. Stewart was 53 years old at the time, with wrinkles, gray hair, and a worn-out voice, playing someone supposedly in their early 30s. Ford made no real attempt to hide Stewart's age, relying instead on the strength of his performance. Back then, audiences accepted it. But watching it now, it's a little strange to see a middle-aged man portraying a political upstart in scenes meant to take place decades earlier. It's one of those just-go-with-it Hollywood moments that's both weird and charming. 4. Liberty Valance is barely in the film. For a character who's in the title, Liberty Valance himself doesn't get much screen time. Lee Marvin plays him with menace and style, but all in all, he's on screen for about 10 to 15 minutes total. That's it. Yet his presence looms large over the entire movie. Marvin's portrayal, brutal, cocky, and cold-blooded, gave the character an outsized impact. His every entrance oozes violence and unpredictability. It's a testament to Marvin's performance that audiences remember him so vividly, even though he's practically a ghost compared to the rest of the cast. 5. They built a whole town, then barely showed it. In typical Western fashion, Paramount built a detailed set for the film. An entire Western town, complete with wooden walkways, a newspaper office, dusty streets, and a saloon. The construction was extensive and expensive. But here's the strange part. Ford shot much of the film indoors or in tightly framed exterior shots. As a result, most of the town is never really seen. It gives the movie a slightly stagey feel, more theatrical than expansive, which again might have been intentional. Ford was telling a story not about action, but about memory, myth, and the passing of an era. 6. The legendary quote was invented for the film. If the legend becomes fact, print the legend. One of the most quoted lines in movie history, and certainly the most famous from this film. It's become shorthand for how media and politics shape public perception, even at the expense of truth. But here's the twist. it wasn't in the original short story. The film is based on a 1953 piece by Dorothy M. Johnson, but that iconic quote was invented by screenwriters James Bella and Willis Goldbeck. That line transformed the entire meaning of the film and is still cited today in debates about journalism, history, and truth. 7. The film underperformed at the box office. You'd think that with John Wayne, James Stewart, and John Ford on the marquee, the film would have been a runaway hit. But The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance had only moderate box office success. It made its budget back, and then some, but it didn't become the cultural juggernaut people expected. At the time, audiences wanted escapism, westerns with clear good guys and bad guys. This film? It was slow, talky, and cynical. Not what you'd expect from a John Wayne movie. Critics were mixed. It took decades for the film to gain the recognition it deserved. 8. John Ford bullied Woody Strode on set. Ford's mistreatment of African-American actor Woody Strode, who played Doniphan's loyal friend Pompey, has been documented by Strode himself. He said Ford constantly humiliated him during filming, giving vague direction, dismissive attitude, and undermining his confidence. Some biographers believe this was part of Ford's twisted way of getting a subdued performance. Others think it reflected Ford's old-school, racially insensitive attitude. Either way, Strode's performance was powerful, and his character, calm, loyal, and moral, stood in quiet contrast to the louder, violent men around him. 9. It was shut out of the Oscars completely. No Best Picture nomination. No acting nods. Not even a nomination for cinematography or screenplay. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance was completely ignored by the Academy in 1962. It wasn't even considered a major contender. Over time, critics and film historians have re-evaluated the film, calling it one of the greatest westerns ever made and one of the worst Oscar snubs of its decade. Today, it holds a place in the Library of Congress's National Film Registry as a culturally significant work of American cinema. 10. It changed the Western genre forever. At its core, Liberty Valance is not about action. It's about memory, politics, and the lies we tell to build civilizations. Before this film, most Westerns painted a simple world of good and evil, cowboys and outlaws. But this movie cracked the myth wide open. It asked, what if the hero was a fraud? What if truth is less important than the story people want to believe? That question, printed in newspapers, voted into office, and etched into monuments, shifted how future filmmakers approach the genre. Without Liberty Valance, there might be no Unforgiven, no The Assassination of Jesse James, and no Deadwood. It redefined the Western, not with bullets, but with ideas. So there you have it, 10 strange, fascinating, and sometimes uncomfortable facts about the man who shot Liberty Valance. A film that looked backwards to the Wild West and forwards to a new kind of storytelling. It was messy, moody, and misunderstood, but it planted the seeds for the modern Western and gave us one of the most quoted lines in movie history. Whether you watch it for the cast, the message, or just to see Stewart and Wayne in their later years, one thing's for sure. Liberty Valance is a film that gets better the more you understand it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into classic cinema, hit that like button, subscribe for more film trivia and storytelling breakdowns, and let us know in the comments, who really shot Liberty Valance?